Hi, I'm Rob Graff. I'm sort of Jeff's counterpart in greater Philadelphia area. I'm going to be talking about some of the findings from also a DOE-funded project, Department of Energy-funded project by the same grant opportunity that Georgetown Climate Center's work was funded by, that took place in the Pennsylvania side of our region. A couple things I just got to mention first. I think everyone took, this may be the only copy of this left because the others I had on the back table seem to be gone. This is the report that we produced from our work that is downloadable from our website, which will be at the end of this presentation. I guess before I get started, I just want to get a couple sort of major points. One is that I think the biggest competitor for electric vehicles is actually the internal combustion engine. As fuel economy increases, the cost differential, running cost differential for electric vehicles decreases as well. So we have to keep that in mind. It's a big challenge. The other thing is a lot of people who are purchasing electric vehicles in California, I just looked at a study done by this UC Davis on electric vehicles there, and they found that a large number of the people buying plug-in hybrids were buying them purely for the HOV lane access, and they never, ever plugged them in at all. And the survey asked how often do you plug in, and they said we don't have a place for zero here. And so we have to be aware that there's some other reasons people are buying electric vehicles. Also in Philadelphia, there's a lot of pushback. You see I'm a little more skeptical than some of our other speakers. Some pushback about privatizing of public parking, especially on crowded urban streets. They've allowed electric vehicle owners to reserve a space, essentially, on very crowded public streets for public charging. And it's a real challenge because then you get lots of pushback from neighbors, and it can really cause some conflicts in neighborhoods. I'm going to be talking, in fact, I personally think, as you'll see, that public charging infrastructure is far overemphasized in this field. What I'm talking about particularly is, I'm looking specifically here at driving and parking habits in our region, which is a small part of our study, based on, we do, like I'm sure NJTPA, a household survey of all the households in our region about how people use their vehicles in a particular day. There's a new survey in the field right now, but this is our most recent one, and it provides data on each trip taken by all modes. So if you get up in the morning and you walk to, or you drive your car to, or you walk and pick up a cup of coffee and walk back home, those are 2 trips. Then you drive to the train station, and then you take the train, and then you take a bus. Those are all separate trips. And what we looked at was, we looked at how far the vehicles drive in a particular day, not how far an individual drives, but how far a given vehicle goes in a given day. And you can see along the bottom of this is how many miles were driven per day by the vehicle, and on the, there's a button in the middle of the laser? Yep. Yeah. And over here shows the percentage of vehicles that drove that distance. So you can see that, for instance, let's see if I can read it from this angle. About over 85% of the people drive 40 miles or less in a given day. So how does this compare to the range, the all-electric range of the Volt and the range of the Leaf? And as you can see, you can see that's the EPA range, is where the dot is, and this line is sort of the range in practice of these vehicles. I had a Volt on loan for a while in February, and it only got about 22 miles before it kicked over to seamlessly to the gasoline. And then, of course, the Volt has a 350 range gasoline mile range. But you can see that if you have a Volt, you can pretty much drive all day. 85% of the people can drive all day on that. And if you have a Leaf, it's close to 100% of the people can drive all day on a typical day. And then if you have a Volt, you can drive to Boston if you really wanted to without stopping. Starting with electric, so it gives you a lot more flexibility. And then the other question is, how long do people park? This is looking at how long people park at work. Again, the hours are along the bottom, and here's the percentages. So, what's that? About 80% of people park at least 7 hours. People who park at work, which is not everyone, park about 7 hours. 80% of them park 7 hours or more. This actually was interesting. When we looked at this data, there was a hole in the middle of the data, and it came back because a lot of people use their cars at lunch. So we found that park for 3 hours, then another 3 hours, or another 4 hours. So how far would you get using level 1 charging in that 7 hours, let's say that's 7 hours. You can add another 28 miles to your vehicle parked at work using a regular standard 110 volt outlet, which is really easy and inexpensive to supply. And if you're only driving 40 miles a day, typically, well, you'll more than replenish your vehicle at work with just a simple, inexpensive 110 volt outlet. And level 2 charging, you can get 105 miles in that 7 hours. So, but very few people need that in a day, as we saw from the earlier graph. So, as I was saying, so the conclusion, so this graphic here is the Department of Energy graphic on sort of where they feel the emphasis on charging infrastructure should be put. First at people's homes, single family and multifamily homes, then at employees at work, and then fleets, public infrastructure within the metropolitan area, sort of public opportunity, what people call opportunity charging. And finally, this tiny little piece is InterMetro, like on the New Jersey Turnpike or Pennsylvania Turnpike or someplace where you're going to be driving a longer distance. Because I will maintain that public charging stations, opportunity charging stations is overemphasized, because if you have an electric vehicle, you will not leave, and if you have a regular vehicle, you will not leave on a journey if you don't have enough fuel to get to where you're going to get fuel again. And you have to have a guaranteed spot. You're not going to say, I'm going to go to drive this football game that's right at the end of my electric range for my vehicle. I won't be able to get back unless I can find one of the 8 charging stations there, and you get there and you find it's full. Then what are you going to do? So I would maintain that people aren't going to make use of public charging stations except to sort of top off and get free charge. In fact, that's what they're finding in California, that the public charging stations, a given owner will use public charging stations for a while, really excitedly go plugging in when they go to the supermarket, but after 6 months, a year, they realize that it's not worth the trouble, basically, unless it's free. And it's a very difficult model to be free. So my conclusions here that many vehicles can be replaced, many vehicles in our region, and similar here, I'm sure, can be replaced by electric vehicles. The ranges are long enough especially for a second vehicle or a electric vehicle that also has a backup gasoline engine, like a Volt, where you won't get caught without, or a plug-in hybrid. Many Leaf owners will also use only level 2 charging at home and don't really need it at work, because they can get 100 miles on their vehicle overnight, or 70 miles on the vehicle overnight, and most vehicles don't travel that far in a day. They'll plug in again at night. They might plug in at work if it's available, but it's not essential. They could even plug in with a level 1 charging at work and get enough to get back home unless they live more than 30 miles from work. And most work charging, I think, can be led by much less expensive level 1 charging than the emphasis on the more expensive level 2 charging. So those are my conclusions, which may have some questions later on. And the full report, our ready-to-roll report, is downloadable from DVRPC's website there. Thanks so much.